16 Curious Facts about the Cruel Roman Emperor Caligula. Emperor Caligula, known for his tyrannical rule, brought terror to Rome during his brief reign. His reign was marked by an escalation of murders, adultery, and unrestrained indulgence, and his rule came to an abrupt end after just 4 years when he was brutally murdered. The stories surrounding the life of Caligula, the third emperor of Rome, have taken on borrowed proportions, making it difficult to distinguish between reality and myth. Initially, the people of Rome had high expectations for their young emperor, son of the respected military hero Germanicus. However, in a matter of months, Caligula transformed himself into a cruel and tyrannical ruler, gradually becoming the most brutal leader the empire had ever known. According to the stories, he saw himself as an immortal god, capable of committing any act he desired. His government was marked by a relentless wave of extravagant spending, adultery, and murder. His behavior was so erratic that people began to question his sanity. In this intriguing context, we will explore some of the most bizarre and peculiar adventures that occurred during his reign, which we will ultimately develop into his downfall in 41 AD. Number 1. Caligula was not his birth name. The emperor we are talking about here was given the birth name of Gaius Caesar Germanicus, being the son of Germanicus and Agrippa the elder. His military journey began surprisingly early, at just 3 years old, when he accompanied his father on military campaigns. What makes this story even more peculiar is the detail that he wore miniature boots, a gift given to him as a child. These small boots soon caused amusement among the other soldiers, who, in a mocking manner, began to call him Caligula, a term that in Latin means little boot. Number 2. His mother, Agrippa the elder, was a force of nature. It was said that she had the habit of accompanying her husband, the military hero Germanicus, in many of his most intense and bloody campaigns, becoming his closest and most trusted political advisor. Number 3. Caligula had a complicated relationship with Emperor Tiberius. Caligula's father, Germanicus, was the nephew and adopted son of Emperor Tiberius. After the tragic death of Germanicus, Caligula's mother, Agrippa, firmly confirmed that Tiberius was involved. Publicly expressing his desire for revenge, Agrippa soon found himself arrested by Tiberius, along with his sons, who sadly perished in custody. Given that Caligula was still very young at the time, he was sent to live with Tiberius' mother, Livia Drusilla. As time passed, Caligula was summoned to join Tiberius on Capri when he became a teenager. However, this summons turned him into a spoiled prisoner of his great-uncle and adoptive grandfather, although he secretly harbored a deep contempt for him. Tiberius fed Caligula's ego by designating him heir to the throne, but he also exposed scenes of torture and brutality. He bitterly claimed that he was feeding a viper in the bosom of Rome. Number 4. His first few months as emperor went reasonably well. Early in his reign, Caligula implemented a series of political reforms and even allowed the return of exiles from Rome. However, in the subsequent months, something changed significantly. Some claim that his transformation was the result of a serious illness, which led him to adopt increasingly unpredictable and disturbed behaviors. Number 5. Large amounts of money have been wasted on vanity projects. After the implementation of tax increases to increase revenue, Caligula's spending triggered a lack of financial control. In one widely known episode, Caligula orchestrated the formation of an approximately 3-mile-long floating bridge across the Bay of Baiae, utilizing hundreds of merchant ships. For 2 consecutive days, he rode from one side of this monumental structure to the other, wrapped in a dazzling golden cape. Number 6. Buildings was his greatest legacy. Caligula invested vast narratives in aqueducts, ports, theaters and temples in his own name. Although his excessive architectural ambitions put him into debt, he managed to successfully oversee the completion of important projects in the city. These included the construction of the Temple of Augustus, the restoration of the Theatre of Pompey, the protection of the temple walls in Syracuse, and even the establishment of a Roman city in the Alps. Number 7. He turned a military campaign into performance art. Between the years 39 and 40 after Christ, Caligula led military campaigns on the banks of the Rhine and the English Channel, hoping to follow in the footsteps of his fearless father, Germanicus. However, as every battle ended in defeat, he plunged further and further into the brink of insanity. Driven by desperation to win a victory, Caligula started an imaginary war with his own army, declaring Neptune, the sea god of mythology, as his enemy. He ordered his soldiers to whip the waves and plunder the sea for shells, which were then treated as spoils of war. This episode vividly illustrates Caligula's volatile mental state during his rule. Number 8. He banned anyone from talking about goats around him. Thin, pale, and covered in a great deal of fine hair, Caligula was not blessed with natural beauty. He, in particular, avoided any association that might remind him of his resemblance to a goat. Number 9. Believing he had extraordinary powers, he declared himself an immortal god. His favorite phrase, which he often repeated, was, "Remember that I have the power to take any action against anyone." This included adultery with the wives of his allies and the use of torture or murder against high-ranking senators who dared to disagree with him. He went so far as to turn murder into something of a pastime, attacking people at random and instilling a paralyzing fear in everyone around him. There are even rumors that he decapitated statues, replacing their heads with his own. Number 10. Caligula loved his horse, Incitatus. He devoted exceptional attention to his magnificent steed, providing him with a residence of his own with a marble-lined bay and an ivory manger. He even publicly toyed with the idea of declaring his beloved horse an honorary Roman consul. Unfortunately, life took him before he could realize this bold dream. Number 11. Gladiator games have been turned into a horrible sport. Caligula turned the Roman gladiatorial games into a macabre display of his cruelty and power. In addition to sacrificing criminals and slaves in front of a sedentary audience for entertainment, he went to the extreme of feeding the crowd with the beasts themselves, justifying that he was running out of criminals to fight. This sadistic and despotic attitude illustrates the darker side of his reign. Number 12. Married 4 times, each time short-lived. Caligula's marriage partners were Unia Claudia, Livia Orestilla, Lollia Paulina and Milonia Caesonia. Among them, Milonia was the only one to give him offspring, having a daughter named Julia Drusilla. Number 13. 2 pleasure barges were built on Lake Nemi. Caligula recommended the construction of 2 splendid vessels that would be anchored in Lake Nemi. These vessels, often referred to as delight barges, were famous for their sumptuousness, boasting marble decorations, mosaic floors and statues. It was in these luxurious settings that he hosted a series of extravagant and licentious parties. Although they were discovered during the 1920s and 1930s, unfortunately, much of them were devastated during the tumultuous events of World War II. However, a notable artist survived this destruction, a lead pipe, which bore the inscription, "Property of Gaius Caesar Augustus Germanicus." Number 14. Emperor Caligula reigned for only 4 years, from 37 to 41 AD. As Caligula's oppressive rule reached unsustainable levels, a secret plot began to form to put an end to his reign. In 41 AD, after a sporting event, the emperor was the target of a conspiracy involving members of the Praetorian Guard, which resulted in a brutal attack with more than 30 stab wounds. In this tragic episode, his wife and even his 1-year-old daughter also met a tragic fate, being murdered inside the imperial palace. Number 15. The Roman Senate tried to remove him from history. Soon after his death, the Roman Senate undertook a campaign to demolish Caligula's monuments, in the hope that his memory could be erased from history. However, this attempt turned out to be fruitless. Caligula remains one of the most meticulously trained and written emperors of all time, a character who has resisted oblivion over the centuries. Number 16. An unexpected successor followed. To everyone's surprise, Claudius, Caligula's considerably older uncle, was summoned to occupy the throne. However, Claudius declared himself a much more competent ruler than his young and rebellious nephew. What did you think of today's video? Did you already know any of these interesting facts about Emperor Caligula? Let us know your thoughts on this topic, as we would love to read and respond to your comments below. And if you liked this video and haven't subscribed to our channel yet, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss any of the intriguing videos we post every week. And if you want to take advantage and learn a little more, be sure to click on one of these videos that we are suggesting for you. Remember, a people who do not know their history are condemned to repeat it. Until the next video.